Dude, this Gabe art, by the way, is like so sick.
That's so good. I can't wait to see the Reyna art. Whew.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Yeah, she probably looks so good. Because everyone's older now, right? Except Reyna. Reyna is like dude, mostly this Gabe art, by the way. Right? She's mostly like, cyborg. So sick.
Yeah, so she's got that like suit.
Yeah.
Is that can't wait to see the Reyna, or is that just like a suit?
Yeah, no,
well,
I'm excited.
I guess her subtype is cyborg, so I don't know how much.
Because everyone's older now. Really, her body. Like I don't. I don't know if you ever played Deus Ex Human Revolution. But there's like like one of the final bosses in the game is like a guy where pretty much only his head is the remaining part of his body. The rest of his body is like in a similar like suit like Reyna. It's like all muscle. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
So we're live.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
That was a very interesting introduction there. I'll never let Hollis do the intro again. Welcome to Bad Publicity. We are live on Netrunner Wednesdays. Jumping back into the action here, we have a revised core set. We are going to do a monstrous episode tonight. We're going to do criminal breakdown. We're going to do a shaper breakdown. And we're going to talk about the plethora of cards that got booted from neutral. Also tonight, at some time randomly, we are going to... I've gotten my hands on some special promos, the alt arts. I don't know if you guys have seen these. I can't show it properly without a glare coming off the screen. But you know that these are the ANR Pro Circuit or Player Circuit, Hasbiroid Engineering the Future, to be used for a couple more weeks, and they knew stronger together. That's why they are double-sided. Can't rotate out everything.
Did the math, have stronger together.
Another quick, interesting tidbit for everybody coming in, and we can pounce this all night long. Down below, if you're watching this, make sure you're watching this not in the YouTube, but in YouTube Gaming. We are now a link into YouTube. Google is flowing through our blood, and there is a sponsor button down there. If you so choose, you can click that button and help sponsor the show, and that pays for new hats for me and all that fun stuff.
New hats? Okay.
No, well. I'm just kidding. I could never trade my hats in. I have a set specific rotation. No, that money is going to go to obviously helping us out with better equipment and different funds that we've run and continue to run. We did the Netrunner alt art cards. We were able to print off a whole bunch of those. We were able to provide the audio streams. The hosting for that is not free. So generous donations that have people that have put it through Patreon definitely have helped us immensely. So guys, let's just flick over to it right now and just start talking about Criminal. Oh wait, you guys all good? John, welcome back. You survived the week. You didn't quit on us. Appreciate it.
Nope.
And Hollis.
I'm good. I'm happy. We made it, guys. We nobody died in this like past week. I was expecting myself. Good. I was
nobody
to die. Nobody. Well, nobody we care about. I'm kidding. Like I don't know. Maybe somebody we cared about. That'd be really sad. But we're here, and that's
nobody I'm aware of.
Yeah. The fact that we're here is what's really important. Can we be honest?
We have each other.
There you go. Thank you, John. Thank you.
I got your back.
All right, so let's hit this. Hollis, you want to talk about what got cut from Criminal?
You can just give the full list.
Yeah, you might as well run it down first, or do it how you want. You got the reins. Here's the reins. Take them.
I'm in. Yeah. So like, what's out? What the cards that are out from the criminal faction and core set are Account Siphon, Desperado, Lumeria Code Cracker, Ninja, Data Dealer, and Decoy. Each of those cards are out of here. They're done. Get them out of the game. I don't want to see them again. Well,
so what's your thoughts there? Needed? Is this needed?
Yes and no. I feel like in the case of like Desperado, I feel like a card like Desperado was very, very like it was so strong. It sort of like set the bar for consoles in general for the criminal faction, and really for any faction. And so it was so good that like I can see why they would choose to rotate it out. When it comes to like a card like Account Siphon, I have mixed opinions on it. I feel like I have a mixed opinion on it, and I think other opinions will vary based on their familiarity with the game, obviously, right? Which I won't delve into. I'll let you gentlemen delve into that. Those are my immediate takeaways. Cards like Lemuria Codecracker, I don't think really were ever truly relevant in this game. Not for quite some time. Like not since Core was Lemuria Codecracker ever relevant. And then cards like Decoy, Data Dealer, Ninja, we've seen so many better versions of cards that do what they do. You might as well rotate them out for existing cards that have basically power crept above their existing power level. So,
Yep. Yeah. In particular, like obviously you said the two big standouts are Account Siphon and Desperado, but the others, I have considered playing Data Dealer, but then the ShadowNet came out, so why play Data Dealer? That one doesn't even cost influence if you want to import it. So yeah, in general, these cards, like the 4 cards, the Codecracker, Ninja, Data Dealer, and Decoy, I don't really think anyone was playing with these cards at all. And I don't think there was ever really a world in which people would have started playing with them. I think that's fair to say. In particular, because they've actually started giving Criminal like a lot of good breakers in the more recent sets.
Yeah, we are well past the time when Ninja needed to be in there.
How much influence is Ninja? Is it 2 or 3?
I think it is 2. I think it 2. Is actually
okay. 2. Okay. It's not like Ninja's really not that bad. I think it probably gets a worse rap than it is. Like you don't want to play it, but it's all right. It's an okay icebreaker. You know, maybe if it was 1 influence, maybe it would see a little more play.
Right.
But yeah.
And we know Rototour's coming back.
That's true.
So maybe, I don't know. Rototour's a 1 influence ice. It's 1 influence ice, 0 strength, 4 to res, and it has 2 subs. I can see a scenario where maybe, but I mean, like, I guess I can't ever rationalize why I would run it over like Mimic.
Mongoose.
Or Mongoose, yeah, like it would be the same result, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have like Mongoose and Fem are such like a match made in heaven, right?
Yep. Yeah, they really are.
So it's like you have like a primary breaker and then a backup breaker for stacking sentries and synergy with Data Sucker and all that good stuff. So yeah, that doesn't really matter. Data Dealer, like we said, outclassed by the ShadowNet. Decoy completely outclassed by Aaron and Citadel Sanctuary in most relevant ways. And Lemuria Codecracker kind of just exists and is very inefficient and weird. Not a lot to say about that.
It is like it's so bad. It's actually so bad. It's the click, right? Like why add an extra click to it? Like just
yeah. It's one of those things where it's like if you want to see cards in HQ, there are a lot of good ways to do that. Namely, like playing the card legwork. Then you get to access them too, right? Like you can like get into HQ if you like that way to like make the run on HQ. And then in terms of exposing cards, there's like plenty of like side effects to like exposing things. Like Deuce's Wild is perfectly playable. And in general, you just don't really need to expose stuff, right? Like it's not, like you kind of like, oh, they're playing Jinteki and they motioned a card. Like maybe you'd want an expose effect in that situation, but in most of their cases, you kind of know.
Yep.
So that's like a downside.
It's funny to me that like Expose became such an almost unnecessary part of the game, because I mean, like John, you're a very competitive player. Like when you have effectively like perfect knowledge of the existing meta of common deck archetypes, a lot of times you can make very good guesses about what cards are, and so like or at the very least mitigate the downside of making a run when you don't know what the card in the server is.
Yeah.
Or
exposes outclassed by playing very well.
Right. Yeah. And
so that's kind of why you never see it in top end decks.
Mm-hmm. And like I said this previously, like I want to even say like around 6 months ago when I was looking at like ways to boost the power level of cards, but I feel like some of the cards that exist even now that haven't rotated out get a little better when you add an extra kick of expose to them. Because now there's the benefit of, okay, you know what? This card is kind of okay, but now that when I add the expose, I can justify the inclusion over something maybe even clearly better most of the time. Because there's additional knowledge I would gain on top of the smaller effect. So Lemuria is just definitely, I think it was during that time frame where they were figuring out how good expose was in the game, right?
Yeah, it turns out that I actually think that if you like, for example, let's say you had I don't know, like a super good card like medium, like just a very powerful card, and then it also happened to expose cards in some incidental way, that would probably be really bad for the game, right? Because it would like further take away that sort of hidden information aspect of the game that I think people love so much. But so on one end, it's like you don't really want expose to be good, right? Is it fun for the runner to know every card you have installed? Not really. It just makes the game like even more deterministic and like obvious for the runner player. So, like a card that was just like 0 expose every corp card is probably really good.
Right.
In like a lot of board states. But, you don't really, is that fun? Probably not, right? To just like expose all your cards? I don't know. That's just my opinion. And then it's also not really strong enough to earn a slot if that's all the card does is expose.
Yeah.
So it's exposes in a weird space where we don't really see it that much anymore, and that's probably why, right?
Yeah, totally true. There's just nothing that you can't mitigate. There's nothing that's going to automatically wipe you out if you're playing smart enough.
Oh, but wouldn't it be super weird if we lived in a world where traps were so good that you had to play 3 infiltration? Like,
man, wouldn't that be crazy?
You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be nuts? But like, imagine like a theoretical trap. Like, if this has 2 or more advancements on it and the runner runs it, you win the game.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine like a theoretical trap that like is just completely insane if they hit it. Infiltration's probably really sick, right? Like in that metagame.
Right.
So that's the thing too, because like you said, like traps are mitigatable. Like you can play your diesel before you run a Junebug. You can install feedback filter or biomodeled network or all these damage prevention cards and then check the card.
Or just draw a card then run.
Yeah, or draw and run. Yeah, exactly. So there's so many ways to get around the downsides that the current suite of traps offer that it's it's not really worth it ultimately.
Decoy was interesting though, wasn't it? I mean, that did serve its purpose for shaking a tag back in the day, and obviously it used to be the best way because you actually avoided it. You didn't take it and then clear it. But then now we just have other ways to do that. So I could see them moving it out, but I'm not too sure. I guess it was just because it was inefficient now, right? Like if you are a full-time player, but I don't know, having that in the core, maybe it would have been helpful if somebody was just getting into the game, but
sure, like you have like a decoy down and you get snared and then you go, haha, but my decoy. So it has that sort of aspect to it. Yeah, I don't really think decoy is all that bad ultimately. They're actually really cool cases for cards like decoy, like let's say your opponent has Data Raven into Data Ward. Decoy is actually quite strong there, right? Because you can dodge the tag from the Data Raven and then not get wrecked by the Data Ward. So there's cool things that decoy can do, but for a single deck slot, it's probably pretty low value, unfortunately. Right. But I mean, in a C-Source Scorch days, having a decoy down is probably pretty sick, right?
Right. Yeah.
Just like counter as a C-Source. So
it makes me wonder also, like, how much tag prevention that FFG is willing to allow into the game for runners, as opposed to damage prevention. So tag prevention versus damage prevention, because we know not only is Decoy gone, but we just had spoiled that Air Maron, at least if that list is accurate, is going to be a banned card in Netrunner now. Is it banned or restricted, right?
I think it was banned.
Banned, which means that, like the hard, the hard counter card to tags in general is going to be gone. Yeah. So, like, it makes me wonder if they're moving away, if they want to move back to, because we have the Mercs card that basically prevents meat damage now, or any form of damage, I believe. So it's basically like, hey, are we moving towards back to just damage prevention as opposed to tag prevention? So does FFG have a plan internally where they say, we want the corp to be able to tag the runner. We don't want the runner to be able to manipulate tags that often, but they should be able to manipulate damage from tags, which is interesting to me.
So obviously, let's talk about the two that are most interesting, which is Desperado and Account Siphon. I don't think I have a problem with Desperado going. Let the new people get into the game without, feeling that crutch of choosing a criminal console when deck building, because when you're evaluating console per console, that's always going to win out. So why are you reaching for another console within criminal? So I fully believe that that's a design space. Like, let's make people make choices now. So I don't know. Part of me kind of wishes that they had have just kind of reprinted it, or did something with the stats to change it a bit, because I really believe that a core mechanic within criminal is what we call click compression, where you're doing a whole bunch of things off one click, where you had a Desperado with security testing, or John Masanori, you're drawing, gaining money, like making the run, accessing cards. Back in the day when Data Sucker was still in there too, you Data Sucker, Desperado counters. So you were doing a whole bunch of stuff, and that was very, very criminal-like, to be able to push as much stuff in a single click as possible. And it's going to be very interesting now that you take one of their biggest tools away for that, which is the Desperado.
Yeah. I think in particular, everyone's kind of felt that way when you're making a criminal deck. Is one problem criminals had, at least for as long as I've been playing, which is the beginning of the Mumbad cycle. When you go to build a criminal deck, the deck makes itself very quickly. And I think the list you're going to make is 3 Desperado, 2 security testing, 3 Arthritis Hotel, 3 Career Fair, 3 Account Siphon, 3 Sure Gamble, and you just sort of start filling in cards. And Desperado just sort of and Account Siphon as well just contributed to that problem, right? Where they were just so clearly better than other options that you just kind of always felt like you were losing out by not playing them. So I totally agree. Desperado in that sense is pretty bad. Just for the game. I think, for example, Doppelganger, which we'll get to in a bit, super cool. Really cool console. Has a really interesting impact on the game. Not playable compared to Desperado. You can, but you shouldn't. You should just play Desperado. So it's, that's sort of something I've always struggled with Desperado. And Desperado, one of the few consoles that people spend influence on out of faction. There aren't many of them in terms of the grand scheme of the game. You don't often spend your influence on a console, but Desperado is one that people have often reached for.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to the power of it.
Yeah, and I think that's where, the tweaks could have been made. Now, so many cycles later, we are seeing consoles that do cost more. So maybe if Desperado had, one of these newer console costs, like a Maw, or even something ridiculous, like 10 credits or something like that. And then obviously increased in influence to restrict it inside faction a little more, maybe we wouldn't be talking about it the same way. But what can you do? That's how it was printed, and now we'll never talk about it again.
Hey, except in Legacy A&R.
Oh.
Which, plug for myself, by the way, every month I'm going to be running a Legacy tournament. So I'll make a post for the one coming out next, but watch out for that. You can play all the Desperados you want in that format. But there's probably way more exciting things to do than install Desperado, but it is an option.
That leaves the one I don't agree with. I really believe that account siphon should have stayed. This is bread and butter criminal. This is something that I know when we talked with Damon, it was just not fun to play against if you were being account siphoned over and over and over. But I will bet you dollars to donuts, once you've been account siphoned in a game, at least 5 or 6 times, you quickly learn how to defend against account siphon. That's something that the OG players have been experiencing for a long time, and that's something that people, I'm sure yourself, John, that got in, knew that this is how you have to defend against criminal. This is how I have to play around account siphon.
Yep. Yeah, I think you have to lose a substantial number of games to just getting siphoned out of the game before you get it, before you understand how, and I think in a certain sense, that's how criminal works. Criminal beats you by getting you to spend a bunch of random extra resources on double icing HQ, something you mostly don't want to do in most matchups, right? They kind of force you into a certain play style. So, yeah, I see both sides of it, right? I think actually, in some ways, account siphon prevented some of the dumbest corp strategies. So CI, so I'm known for playing CI combo decks, but I don't think those decks are as interesting without powerful counters like account siphon, right? I think that whenever you have a corp like CI that generates these huge credit pools that leverages that massive credit pool to win very quickly or lock you out or whatever it does, with Sandberg and stuff, account siphon is just such a natural, prevalent foil to those kinds of strategies that I've always enjoyed that aspect of its existence. So, I don't know. Have you been account siphoned too many times, Hollis? Are you not sympathetic?
Have I been account siphoned too many times? Hello. I think that it also stems from the fact that some of the decks that people... Part of this Core 2 concept, right, is to also prevent those negative play experiences. So even if you're a seasoned Netrunner player, and you know that versus Criminal, there's a different line of play in the early part of the game, and you maybe prioritize some of your essentials a little differently. The fact remains is if you're a newer player, they would, part of this reason they're doing Core 2 is to kind of prevent those negative play experiences where you go, well, that just wasn't fun because I couldn't do anything. But there was really no counterplay without me being aware of every single threat right from the go. And by removing account siphon, I think you hit the nail right on the head. By removing it, they prevent those negative play experiences, and they kind of make it so that, or they do make it as such that the game is played. I guess the start of the game maybe plays in a more standard way across the board. It's not as landslidey. Yeah. To piggyback off that, there's some decks that, truthfully are kind of degenerate that heavily depend on the account siphon. Val DLR was one such deck, right? Where, you have the DLR issue, the DLR plan here, but the other backbone of that plan was, siphon you, and then we'll same old thing, siphon you, and then we'll deja vu, siphon you. This is what we're doing. We're gonna siphon you a lot. We got tags. You're so low, you have to get rid of DLR, but you can't. And we're just going to keep that rolling. We're going to just keep that rolling over and over and over. Do you have enough money? Siphon, and I'll mill some more. Keep those kinds of play experiences are things that they don't really like because they make players they make players angry. They make you feel like you're just basically in a cage, and there's nothing you could do. You're stuck. But the other catch-22 of that is that I don't think we have enough HQ pressure. There's so few cards now, making HQ this really, really dangerous place to leave open. And I think if you want to like maintain this like unique balance across the game, you want to have enough R&D pressure, and you want to have some HQ pressure as well. And I don't think HQ interface is it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing, right? I think what I can say about account siphon is I think I ultimately agree there needs to be more HQ pressure, more prevalent playable HQ pressure in the card pool. And to a certain extent, I feel like there should be a reason to, like, I think maybe good Netrunner, like, there's always a reason to ice archives. There's always a reason to ice HQ. Yeah, there's always a reason to ice R&D, or like, like, you should always kind of be able to need to some extent to protect all your centrals. But the thing about account siphon is that if you're playing against an account siphon deck, like Hate Bear from Worlds last year or DLR, you install like 4 ice on HQ. That's like the correct way to play against it. You put like none on R&D, none on archives, 4 ice on HQ. Or like 1 if they're a keyhole deck on R&D. So it was like the effect account siphon had in the game was so great because of how, like, and honestly, I think that the aspect of account siphon where the corp loses 5 is very fair. Like, I don't think that's a huge, I think it's a large punishment, but I don't think it's that bad. The part that it makes no sense to me, the part I would change is like, maybe make the credits 1 for 1 and you only take 1 tag, right? Like, there's nothing stopping them from like making a future account siphon, right? I think people have kind of speculated that some of these cards are going to come back in, like some of these like classic cards will get rebalanced and repurposed. But I think account siphon's one where I think if it was 5 for 5, you wouldn't have those games where it snowballed out so badly.
Yep.
Right.
I just like from a thinking perspective. Like, I remember making decks, and there was certain cards that I would include that were pulled out of faction. Like, so I would play, for example, in my Jinteki builds, I had sweeps weeks, and things like that, because you had to think, okay, if I got siphoned, how can I bounce back quickly? How can I recover? And it was one of those cards that made you, it was strong enough that you had to assume that if you were playing against blue, it was in their deck, and you had to have an answer for it. And it was just, I just feel like it was good. I feel like it was good for the game. Whether I don't think it was good from the play style experience of a casual player, but I think there was no problem with it on the pro circuit. I mean, if you sat there and you got account siphon 4 or 5 times, and you were playing in a pristine level tournament, that was either your play mistake, you rolled the dice, took a gamble, left HQ unprotected, you didn't have a big enough asset to res to move your money, to drain your funds, and have them not take anything from you, or it's a card game and you just didn't see that card, in your draw. So it was interesting, and it was also one of those cards that was very, it kind of made you stood up if you were watching a game and someone was, say, like playing like a chaos theory or something, and then all of a sudden they drop like 2 siphons on you, and you're just like, what? Right. So it was a card that defined the game, and I'm sad to see it go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel that. Hopefully we have something to replace it in Criminal going forward. And maybe all of what you said is a reason why it shouldn't be in the core set, but should be a card. Maybe, like that huge impact. Like, maybe that's not the kind of card you want in a core set. But I don't know. I don't design Netrunner, but it's it's just one of those things where, don't tempt me. But yeah, maybe, I would love to see this to be a rotating effect that we could get different versions of. Yeah. In the core set, it's like, maybe not, because you can probably never print another card like it ever again as long as it exists. So it's hard to say, but I completely agree with you. It's emotionally a very powerful card. Yeah. It's very exciting for that reason.
Hollis, did you have anything else to say about the outs?
No. I think we covered them pretty well.
All right, perfect. I'll start with the sames. I'll run you the list because I don't think there's much to say on these ones. We're still holding Gabe as our ID, Easy Mark, Forged Activation, Inside Job, Special Order. Pretty much, your staple there. Inside Job had to be there. Special Order, you need some kind of criminal tutoring. In core, Easy Mark for whatever. You got the Aurora because you have to again show that you have to pull some stuff out of faction to get a proper breaker suite. Femme Fatale, Sneak Door Beta is too iconic. Same with Bank Job, and Crash Base was saved. I have really no complaints about the cards that were saved. You guys?
Yep. All good criminal stuff, like I love Easy Mark. I think it's super cool. Forge Activation Order, cool card. Like pretty much all these cards, like I see their role and I see why you'd want to play them, and it's like Crash Space saw play throughout Netrunner's history. Not super prevalently, but it saw play. I think all the cards in this list, other than Aurora, I've seen played in like decks, just in some capacity. So
just to interrupt, hats off to Maui Chris, our first sponsor. He has just sponsored us. You can see in chat he's highlighted there. What? That can be you as well. Thanks, Chris. Really appreciate that.
Thanks, man. That's so nice of you. Thank you.
First one.
Holy crap. Thank you, man.
I don't know what we can send you to be the first one. I think, Chris, let me know in chat if you already have a Haas Byroid alt arts steel thing, and I'll if you need one, I'll send one to you. You are the first. Sorry to cut you off, John, but
no, it's good. That was worth it.
Yeah,
pretty epic for sure. This card pool looks good to me. I mean, this is like I'd be like weirded out if Fem got cut.
Yeah,
So it's like I feel like a lot of these cards, like it'd feel weird if they weren't there. So I like that they're there. They feel comfortable, and none of them are like overbearing. How about you, Hollis?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, I believe. Like everything that remained here, they feel like cards that are if they're not like necessary, they don't even have to be staples. They're kind of just good cards to have available out of the criminal toolbox to always come back to. If for whatever reason, if horizontal spam becomes a thing again, cards like Bank Job get a lot better. I agree with you with Crash Space. Like it is seen play throughout Netrunner's history, just depending on the meta. I don't think you can ever get rid of Femme Fatale or Special Order. The card that to me is interesting remained was Aurora, but I get it.
Yeah, that was
like I get why Aurora's there. Also, Forge Activation. Now that makes me really happy as well, because it means that I would like to think they looked at the fact that Siphon was leaving, and they said we still want to give Criminal a way to deny credits to the Corp that is not beneficial, or at least a way that like hurts the Corp that isn't gonna just be like, hey, you get a full benefit from this. I like Forge Activation orders, still remaining unchanged, because when Siphon goes, Forge Activation, when I was a newer player, or not even necessarily newer, but like when the game was so more before we had as many packs as we do now, like Forge Activation was a really fantastic card to have. It sort of like filled the role of like, hey, you get the expose idea because you get to see what the ice is, and the Corp kind of just has to decide: do you want to pay the 5 to res Itchy now, or do you just trash it because you'll never trigger it if it gets exposed right now, or it gets you have to res right now. I like that. I like having that as an available option. And of course, like the other part of the other criminal cards I think needed to remain. Gabriel needed to remain. Sneak Door Beta needed to remain. And last but not least, Inside Job needed to remain. Femme Fatale needed to remain. Like, those are all cards that are very criminal, right? They're almost iconic in Crim.
Yeah.
I would expect nothing less.
Yeah. And to be clear too, I mean, I can imagine a world where Criminal has none of these cards legal, and there's similar effects in Criminal in like a bigger card pool. I don't think I'm like beholden to inside job. Like, I think spearfishing is also very cool, for example. But I do think that in this context, this is like exactly what I would have kept, basically. Like, it makes sense. Aurora for Color Pie, even. It just makes sense. So, yeah, I agree. It's super cool.
Joshua, thanks for our second sub ever.
What?
Thank you, Joshua. It's very nice of you.
Josh, if you
Holy
do not,
crap, what is happening?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Josh, if you do not have a metal alt art Haas Biroid engineering the future double-sided stronger together, let me know in the chat, and stick around and I will get one out to you, man. I'm in a giving mood today. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joshua Swanner. Very nice of you.
Oh, he just said there's no ER.
With an ER? Swan with an sound at the end.
Oh.
It's all good.
Perfect.
Thank you, Joshua.
Joshua, yeah, like Hollis said, oh my God, thank you very much. Let us know. Oh, he does not. We will send me your contact information, badpublicitybroadcast@gmail.com, and we will get one out to you. Yeah, so yeah, I think what stayed the same. I'm glad Gabe stuck around. He's standard criminal, and like you guys broke down, forged activation, inside job, those needed to be there. Sneak door beta, so cool, so underrated, and bank job. John, why don't you break down what is in then? We got some space here after those cuts.
Cool. So I actually think all these cards are sweet. So we got Emergency Shutdown. It's our event. Doppelganger, HQ Interface, Fairy, Peacock, Pheromones, Fall Guy, and Mr. Lee. So
what stands out there as the most unusual one, or one that you wouldn't expect them to have saved?
The only one that strikes me as unusual is Pheromones, mostly because I think it's a pretty complicated card. It has if I recall, it has let me look it up. As I recall, Pheromones has X. Yeah, it has X in the cost, and it's purgeable. And it gets virus counters, but when it gets the virus counter, it doesn't get more recurring credits till the start of your turn when they refresh, or I don't know. It's confusing. I still don't. I don't actually know how this card works. I'm just saying words, but I don't know how this card works, and I've played thousands and thousands of hours of Netrunner. I understand what it does. I couldn't tell you precisely how it works. So I think that's kind of a troubling thing to me about Pheromones is just a weird card to have here. I do think it's cool to introduce virus counters being a purgeable thing that you can get rid of. I like that. I like that being in the core set. I like that it kind of shows that viruses can be in criminal.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that as well. It's nice that mechanic has sponged over a little there.
Yeah, criminals use viruses, but usually it's to get more money, whereas anarchs get viruses usually to deny the corp stuff. That's kind of how I've always thought of it. And so this kind of fits that theme.
To me, the one that I look at this, and I think they're all great ads. Mr. Lee is really kind of cool to have there in the core. Fall Guy doing his thing. Although I'm surprised at Fall Guy just because of the rigmarole that we've seen in the past with that, leading to some weird stuff with Net Pavilion and all that kind of jazz.
Oh, and now Bug Out Bag too, right? You
can
Fall Guy or Bug Out Bag. It's crazy.
HQ interface staying. That's a nice save to me. Emergency shutdown. I think that's, if you play the game long enough, that almost felt like it was core. So I'm glad that they moved it there. to me, the one that really stands out the most, and I'm surprised they put it in, is Fairy. Just because of how dominantly strong that breaker is. I know there was, it kind of, when it came in, it kind of saw its time. It kind of forced Criminal to play a little more recursion to be able to get that stuff back. But it was also used as great one-ofs out of faction, especially in Shaper, because Shaper could pull stuff back so easily. Or even find it, like if you got a SMC, the self-modifying code, on the table, and you have the Fairy in your deck and you're running, someone might think, I've got this awesome Century Ice ready to trip somebody up, and then all of a sudden Fairy comes out and just neutralizes you off that opening run. That's harsh.
You like res an Archer and you get Fairy sackconned or something, you're just like, ugh, vomit. It's like the worst feeling. Yeah, Fairy's really good. I think that the way the meta has shook out in the last year and a half or so, you haven't seen a lot of Fairy, but I wouldn't expect any world in which Fairy's not like in a part of the conversation. So that, you're right, that is interesting that Fairy is a clearly very good card with natural synergy with like cards like Sacrificial Construct that are also core. I do think it's a little strange as well that they chose Fairy. The one sort of upside with Fairy is that it does sort of display that Criminal, like, sort of short-term gains kind of dynamic that they have. They sort of have that with the Geist Breakers and also the famous Heist Breakers. I don't know, is there a name for those breakers? The Abagnale, Lustig, Damara.
Yeah, I'm not sure what those
do they have a name?
Yeah.
Maybe chat can tell us if there's like a name for those. I just call them the Heist Breakers, but those breakers are all like, they trash themselves for like a really cool, to like bypass ice. So the what?
The Fraud Breakers is what one person.
Fraud Breakers?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. Oh, because they were all like famous people who did like pyramid schemes and stuff like that. Is what they're named after. Yeah. Also, I love that about Netrunner, that a lot of the stuff is like named after, like Jemison at like Astronautics. Sick.
Yeah.
So sick. I love that like reference to like our like real lives or whatever. Anyway, point aside, Fairy's super cool. Fairy is a card that does criminal stuff. Like, it distinctly feels like a criminal card. So I can see why you'd want it in the core set in that way.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's also a nice learning curve with what it does. When an encounter with the ice in which you've used Fairy, you have to trash it. So it's an introduction to kind of a more complex style, just to show that the breakers aren't as stagnant as they were in the core.
Yeah, there's that dynamic energy, right? Where it's not just install 3 of them and then you're good. It's like, ooh, but you can have like Fairy and Mimic in your deck, and then you can use, there's space to explore there with your Sentry Breakers, which is cool.
Hollis, what do you got for the ends here?
Really, for me, the one in particular that I like the most is probably, I'm going to go against the grain a little bit here, but I think it might be Emergency Shutdown. And that's just because, I recall in my memory, like instances where like you would do some really heinous things as the runner. Like I remember, you guys probably all remember like scenarios where you would be like, run the remote, tow booth, you know what? I'll lose the 3, that's fine. And then you would do the other degenerate plan where you go, okay, well, now that I've lost the 3, siphon on HQ, and you shut down that tow booth. Good luck. So you're like, not only like I lost 3, yes, but I siphoned all your money, and now that you can't res for sure, I'll shut down that tow booth. Like, good luck catching back up. Like that kind of stuff was so harsh on the court. But I feel like while we lost the count siphon, I think the emergency shutdown still has that power where any great piece of ice just immediately gets de-resed, and it's one of the now that siphon's gone, it's it's an avenue to deny the corp additional economy, and I love it. So I dig it.
For sure. Yeah, another one I just wanted to say that I like being here is that I like that Mr. Lee's here.
Oh yeah.
So mostly because it's not like a super exciting card by any means. I don't really think this card's seen a lot of play since after maybe like probably around the Sand cycle, people just like stopped playing it. But the cool thing I like about this card is it shows you that like Criminal's not good at drawing lots of cards, but you get the selection aspect of it, which I think is cool. Like there's like a unique way in which it works. So I enjoy that a lot about Mr. Lee. Whereas like Diesel, right, is like so iconic for Shaper. It's like you're the card draw faction. But yeah, I like Mr. Lee. It's definitely like a softer touch than something like Diesel. But it has a nice, like, it seems like it flushes out the core set environment nicely, especially since core set you have a lot of duplicates. So it seems like it would be good in that format.
A little heartbreaking for me, you know. I don't know if we should have the moment of silence for my E3, but I am. I know. I'm sad.
You're an Atom player, right?
Yeah. And I'm sad to see it go. I mean,
Rip.
If we could just, I don't even know what Adam's real color pie piece is. Is it that puke beige? But if you could paint that thing puke beige and just slide it over, that would be just, you know, guys, I'm telling you that Adam is taking a little bit of a hit right now, while we wait to see what they do with the mini factions. No, sir, I don't like it.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I don't know. It's been kind of an established point now that they're going to give a little bit of love to the mini factions in every cycle, right?
Yeah.
That's been kind of like I think pretty established. I think in the spoilers for the next set I saw one. Is that right? Maybe I'm making that up. But the cool thing I like is E3 maybe is gone. It's super good Atom card. It's super sick, but like they'll put maybe E3 will be an Atom card. Like maybe they'll bring it back. I don't know, because it's such like a beloved like aspect of that play style. I don't know. Rip E3. I think that card was very cool.
The other one that I have no problem with it going, but it was probably one of the the powerful ones that kind of got left off is Crescentus. That played a lot more. That saw a lot more play than people probably realize. I mean, obviously it wasn't super dominant, but it was there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then
Crescentus, super good.
And then it was. I mean, it's not needed, but I mean, Silencer's gone now for helping out in faction. What's it called? Stealth play for Criminal. Obviously, I don't think that was a good include in a core set, so that's probably why it got left off.
Yeah, I feel you.
That's really all I can think about for that set.
Fair enough. Yeah, about the same here.
All right.
Oh crap.
Other than that, but this what's it called? Did we lost Blackguard then, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, it's not well designed anyway.
Well, thanks for being fair, Hollis.
I mean, I feel like it was. I felt like looking at Blackguard, it was in that weird gray area where I don't even think they had yet realized how cards were shaping out as far as what would be and what would not be effective in the game. And Blackguard was honestly, it was a powerful ability, right? You force the Corp to res every time, but at the cost of 11 for a console, it's like so. Especially when you have a console that costs 3 that will gain you more than 11 credits during a game. It was like, well, pretty easy decision.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty easy.
All right, so what do you got, Hollis? You gonna walk us into the next realm of Shaper here?
Oh,
do it.
Your pick, man. You want to talk about what's out, what's in, or what's the same?
I'll take the smallest. I'll take what's out.
Fair talk with Hollis.
Fair talk with Hollis, not real talk. Fair talk. So we only have 4 cards. That are actually out, right? Those cards are Kate McCaffrey, the Toolbox.
Why?
Akamatsu Memchip, and Net Shield. Those 4 cards are out. Get them out of there.
Gone.
Forever.
Dude,
forever.
R.I.P. Kate McCaffrey. Come on.
She had a good run.
Pour one out. Seriously.
Yeah. She had a good run.
So Hollis,
what do you guys think?
Are you gonna? Well, you talk about why you feel Akamatsu Mem chips are gone.
Okay, well, so here's the problem, right? I think most of the time, whenever you need an additional MU in most decks, you're gonna get it out of your console. And so, with knowing that, like Astrolabe or Astrolab, whatever you want to pronounce it, knowing that part exists, knowing that Dinosaurus exists, and other like Shaper consoles exist that are going to give you MU and other extra abilities, Akamatsu Memchip just became effectively a card that didn't really have a reason to be in the game anymore. Like, on top of that, there are cards that are neutral that we'll cover later that also give you MU. So that being said, between your console and the way that standard decks are made, you really don't have a need to like get additional MU out of hardware. Shaper can accomplish this with just programs on top of their console. So it's really not a big necessity. And I don't even think we even saw people splashing additional MU in other decks, right? Like Anarch didn't care because Anarch had Grimoire to give them 2 MU. Criminal didn't care because Criminal had Desperado. Why would you ever choose something else other than Desperado? So a card like Akamatsu just really had a very limited scope of like decks it would actually like benefit in. So they're trimming fat. That it clearly becomes a card that you trim the fat of.
Yeah, and then they moved Dyson, right? We'll talk about that when we get there. But they moved Dyson.
Right. Yeah.
Into the core.
Oh yeah.
Man, sad to see Toolbox go. I mean, I was still using that to this day. I love Toolbox. I think it was great. Yeah, it was a little hefty to get to the table, but once you got that thing to the table, that turned games for you, man. What that did was just incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when you actually break down all the stuff that it does. It's a lot.
Memory, link, reoccurring credits. Like, the thing was the full, complete toolbox.
Yeah.
Yep.
No. Yeah.
Yep. I always loved that card. I played it. I tried to play it. I fond memory of this card because when we were testing for Gen Con, not this most recent year, but the previous, we worked on this Au revoir Chaos Theory Jackout deck with like the snitch and like turning wheel and all that stuff. And we spent like all this time like working on it. And one of the iterations had Haley and the Toolbox because the Toolbox gave you +2 MU and like all these other benefits. And we thought like maybe it was like worth playing it. Also, like the tag matchups could be kind of hard sometimes. Like, oh, you get like +2 link from it, so it's harder to hard hitting news you. Like, we had all these reasons why like the Toolbox like might be like the console that we play. Obviously, Astrolabe ended up being the choice, but which costs 8 less credits. But the Toolbox is a cool card. I like this card a lot. I enjoy that it kind of like I miss a card like this being in the game where it's like it just gives you like 2 of everything or whatever. Yeah. Right. Like it just kind of does it all.
You know what though is that you hit on a crazy point about why I used to put this in my decks, because most of the good runners already had base link. So you think if you were playing Kate, link included, and you drop Toolbox, well shit, now your base link is 3. Like I've played games against Tag Me decks where I've had Toolbox down, some other cards with and then Kate, and then they're like, nah, I'm not going to boost the trace.
You're like, I'll pay a credit.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
It was so good to see. Good times. Sad to see Toolbox move on to the big garage in the sky.
Yep.
John, do you have any other thoughts of the other ones? Net Shield.
No, I think Net Shield's a card. There's like good damage prevention out there still. I like Memchip, but I see why it's gone. Toolbox we just talked about. The one I'm kind of sad about. I'm a little sad about Kate. Mostly because I think of all of the runner factions, Kate was actually probably one of the less played good IDs in the entire time I've been playing. Which I think is interesting because I think like there was obviously this time period right before I started where Kate was really dominant and like it was like kind of Kate or bust. Like Haley was there, Chaos Theory was there, but you didn't really see him. It was pretty much all Kate all the time. But when I started playing, Shaper was terrible because Shaper couldn't beat asset decks at the time, and it's not even until really recently that we started seeing like Shapers really fully come back into the meta as like a force. In the last like 6 months or so. So, and I don't really ever see Kate ever, so I'm a little sad that they kind of maybe couldn't have predicted that, but, and at the same time, like Kate is really, really good. I can see why you don't want like a super top tier or potential top tier ID in the core set. So I'm not too mad about it, but, I think that the way things are headed in Netrunner, it doesn't seem likely to me that Kate's going to be like super dominant. For at least a really long time. So, I get it. But yeah, I'll miss her. I think she's cool. I think also San Francisco in particular, like people really love Kate here. Like there's a lot of players, Noah McKee, Weston Odom, some others that have played Kate for years, like literal years spent playing Kate. And so like, I kind of like am sympathetic because she's like such an iconic ID. Yeah. But that's it.
But, like Josh said in chat, we have those many years of prepaid Kate that, I don't know, it did sour some people about how strong that was. And if you were going to play Shaper, it really was hard to pick up something else at that time. Her ability is just really, really strong.
Yeah, it's super good.
Yeah, nothing else to say to that there. Which ones do you want next, man? You want the sames or you want the ins?
Ooh, let's do the sames. We'll do it in the same order we did last time.
All right.
We'll do the sames. So we got Diesel, Modded, Maker's Eye, Tinkering Rabbit Hole, The Personal Touch, Battering Ram, Gordian Blade, Magnum Opus, Pipeline, Aesop's Pawn Shop, and Sacrificial Construct.
Oh man, all cards that have graced the presence of my deck except for Pipeline.
I have played Pipeline, actually. In a serious tournament deck, I have played Pipeline.
Wow.
Yeah.
Before Nanotech came out, I didn't have any influence for the Lock Haley deck. I had to break Kamainu.
Okay.
And Pipeline breaks it for a credit per card, which is as good as any other Sentry Breaker, really, other than Mongoose. So I did play one Pipeline because people in my meta were playing Kamainu.
Oh my god. I like it, though. I like it.
Yeah, you can always think outside the box. Most cards have like a very niche case you'd want to play them, but yeah, Pipeline in aggregate is pretty miserable.
Yeah. I don't think that there's much to touch on. Like I said, when we look at this, I like everything there. I mean, I'm glad Tinkering is still in there. I think that's a card that's really cool for the core set that doesn't get that much play. Modded is Shaper through and through. Some people are going to Burn the World because Gordian Blade is saved. Magnum Opus and Aesop's Sacrificial. They're just, I don't know.
Bread and butter.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people that feel that that Gordian needed to, be pushed aside.
I think Gordian's very fair. Like, I think I can describe most of the cards on this list as being very fair cards.
Yeah.
Like, Aesop doesn't work unless you build your deck around it. SatCon, you have to dedicate a whole slot to, like, its utility, and it's like, there isn't always a good time to play it. Like, there's not always a good meta game to play it. Magnum Opus is strong but slow, which is another kind of Shaper staple. Battering Ram, it's a okay icebreaker, but it kind of shows you that Shaper's thing really is code gates. Personal Touch is super cool. I like that it has synergy with both Mimic and Morningstar, I guess, in the core set, which is a cool deck building thing. Tinkering, it's like a Shaper inside job. Like, every card in this list just like has like a solid, like, this is a Shaper card. I love it. In particular, Diesel was one of the first cards I saw in Netrunner that made me want to play Netrunner.
Yeah.
Before I played Netrunner, I played Magic for 15 years. That game competitively as well. And when I saw Diesel, I was like, no way. No way. There's no way. Like, and I was like, this card's banned. And it's like, oh, you can play 3 in a deck. And I'm like, so every deck plays 3 Diesel? That's not very interesting. It's like, that's not true at all, right? That's like not how the game works. But I like cards like Diesel because when you come to the game from another card game, they tell you that something's different.
Yeah.
That this isn't the same rodeo, right? You haven't done this one before.
It's very interesting because one of our old hosts, he had the same conversation with me. Caleb, the old Corpsemorn, when he came over from Magic into Netrunner, he said the same thing when he opened Diesel. He just looked at it and laughed, and he's like, well, I guess people are going to play this card in their deck for forever,
Yeah. Yeah, because Diesel in Magic, it was Ancestral Recall is like a limited rare, like ultra rare card, right? Like
it's banned in every format except Vintage, where you can only play one in a deck.
It's like, is it 1 water, draw 3, or your opponent draws 3?
You draw 3. Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah. It's really dumb in Magic because in Magic you draw 1 card per turn. In most card games you draw 1 card per turn.
Right.
Every card game you draw 1 card per turn. I've played exactly like 2 card games where you don't draw 1 card per turn. So it's like, when you look at the whole spectrum of the thousands of card games that have been made, you draw 1 card per turn in like 99.9% of them. And then you show me Diesel, and I'm coming from you draw 1 card per turn land. My brain is like really in that mode, right? And I see Diesel, and you just like crap your pants because there's like no way.
Yeah.
Right? No way. So I love that. Like, I love that about Netrunner, that like Diesel to me, I feel like was Lucas's way of being like, yo, check this out. You know what I mean? Like, I really strongly feel that Lucas knew what he was doing when he included Diesel. He knew that the other players would compare it to like Ancestral Recall and Magic.
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that it sort of has that place in the core set that, like, if you're a Magic player or a Yu-Gi-Oh player or Duel Masters or whatever game, and you hop in and you open up a Netrunner core set and you see Diesel, you know you're in for something different. And I think that's cool. Like, I love that it's there. Diesel's like one of my favorite cards in the entire game for that reason.
Cool.
Some of the interesting things to say on is, like I said, I know, love it or hate it. I know there's going to be slack and different opinions on the Gordian Blade. Magnum Opus is an interesting one to include, but I like it because it's another way for a different faction to gain money. You have the way that the criminals do it, with Easy Mark and the bank job, and then you have Magnum Opus in Shaper, just to lay the groundwork there, and you also have Aesop's, and I just think they're almost too iconic to cut. The weird one to kind of look into is Battering Ram. Battering Ram has kind of, how do I say this? its mechanic is just not used. Where you see it, so it has. So what am I trying to say? Where it keeps its strength for the remainder of the run, you just don't see a need for that very much. So I think that can throw people off, thinking that ability is going to be a lot stronger than it actually is.
Sure. It's the same with Gordian too. You know, it's like there's all the core set Shaper Icebreakers do it, right? Mm-hmm. They all do the +1 strength for the remainder of the run. But yeah, Battering Ram's weird, right? In that it's just so different compared to the other ones. It costs 2 MU, right? It breaks 2 subs. Are there any other Icebreakers in the core that really do that? I guess Aurora. I think Aurora breaks 2 subs. But yeah, it's a little funky. I agree. But it is like, you know, Shapers aren't the worst at breaking barriers, but they're not amazing at it either.
Right.
It does kind of signal that, at least.
I don't have anything else to say about that list. Hollis? Unmute.
Mm-hmm. To me, the card of note that I would I'm surprised to see still remain is the personal touch, and if for no other reason, only because like in recent meta I've not seen it played, so it makes me think that, you know, while it still may not see play, they you know, FFG believes it's a card that kind of justifies the inclusion as a core set of cards. Hey, Shaper is the creature enchantment faction, kind of, sort of, in this regard, where they can take a piece of hardware and say, like, I'm going to attach this directly to my breaker. It just permanently has this +1 to strength, which is fine. I mean, you know, if you look at it, arguably, like Anarch has, you know, Anarch has the, you know, the poison counters. They have the data sucker, and well, they did have the parasite. So, I don't think personal touch being kept is at all like a decision that's made because it's going to be included a lot or going to be like popular. It's pretty much like, I think, a thematical choice. Mm-hmm. And I'm correct me if I'm wrong. Does the artwork feature Kate on it? Who's on the personal touch?
I think it's Kate.
Artwork. Yeah, like if anything, I feel like it's almost like posterity. I don't know, like.
Yeah, they'll have to redo the art, right, on the stuff that has Kate on it.
Yeah, because like, you know, like if newer players won't know who, or won't care who Kate is, like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think the personal touch is a little weird, but I kind of get it. Like, it does kind of, like, that is a Shaper thing. Like, other cards that influence the strength of your icebreakers. Like, we've seen that really recently in Lean and Mean. Is that the card? It just came out. Lean and Mean, that gives you all your icebreakers +2 strength if you have only 3 programs installed. So, like, I think that's like a Shaper thing. I mean, like Dinosaurus, right?
Yep.
So I kind of see why it's there, but I agree it is a little weird. Mostly in that it's kind of crappy. But I think it was a lot better when you could install it for 1 credit.
Yeah, you're right.
Rip Kate.
Yeah. Rip Kate, bye.
See you.
So
that's it.
Yeah. Looking at what's in here. So, breaking it down. Chaos Theory is our new ID.
Woo!
And then we just honestly have a powerhouse suite of indexing, notoriety, test run, Dinosaurus, and all-nighter. That all-nighter is kind of just that, you know, someone gave you, you know, 2 cherries on your Sunday.
Why is all-nighter here?
That's what I don't know. It's just like it's just like you're happy. You're like, hey, I got 2 cherries, but still, you're only like, whatever.
Is there ever a fair deck that wants to include all-nighter in it?
I don't know.
Have you ever played against a deck that was like, I'm gonna install this all-nighter, and then use it for value later. It's like, no, you're not. You're going to kill me in one turn with it. Like, if someone installs all-nighter against you, you're just like, oh, you're diaper, or like APOC combo, or like whatever, right? There's no way you're doing something reasonable. No, it's just like not what this card does.
Do you know, I remember when we were playing in the first cycle, and the only time I've ever seen all-nighter played is when me and my my sparring partners, the goal was to try and pull off as many notorieties in a single turn as possible. So you just like you'd be like ripping you'd run your servers, trash
crack some all-nighters.
Yeah, crack some all-nighters and then drop like 2 notorieties and just be like, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's cool. That's in the core set, right? You can still set that up.
But I mean, I think that's the only reason it's in there is to look at that mechanic of gaining an extra click on a turn. Everything else is beautifully saved. Notoriety, I love it. Indexing, like, I mean, like, that is pretty iconic.
Okay, so here's my question. Why indexing instead of RDI? Because we just saw that the criminals got HQ interface.
Yeah, so
why not R&D interface?
Yeah, I have no idea. That's where I was, unless it has something to do with we kept Maker's Eye, and it's just a different. They didn't want the 2 interfaces kind of thing, or the 2 different. They want different styles of multi-access, and maybe Shaper is going to be like that Maker's Eye style, access additional cards off of an event. Maybe Criminal is going to be more hardware based.
Sure. I see it, but I think I would have liked the symmetry, but I get it.
No.
Also, indexing Mad Dash makes me a little salty, so that's like probably another part of it.
I think that I have more hatred against being indexed than I do account siphoned.
That's fair. Dude, indexing, it's maddening when you're getting indexed.
Yeah.
You like hand it over, dude. You're like, give them to me. Give me those sweet 5. But it's like, it's so tense, right? Because you're just sitting there like, don't act pissed. That they're like staring at the top of your R&D, right? Just like let them do whatever. So it's like, I don't know. And there's like less ways to interact with indexing now that Jackson's gone, right? Like, I don't know. Indexing, I agree. It's pretty triggering.
Yeah.
Like, at least for me.
Other than that, I mean, you can't really complain. You got Dinosaurus to go with Chaos Theory. That's pretty inseparable if you're pulling Mac in her toolbox out.
Yep.
Hollis, you have anything there?
I like Chaos Theory a lot more as a core set ID versus Kate because I feel like it's more bland. Like, if I can say that, like,
are you a bland guy?
I mean, I really like vanilla. By the way, I could go on a rant about how saying something is bland is vanilla makes no sense because vanilla is actually inexpensive. It doesn't matter. Whatever. But in short, like, I like Chaos Theory because I feel like while Kate gets that, Kate got that discount from programs and hardware. Chaos Theory also very much like fits the theme of like the other Shaper cards that exist. Like, the deck size is lower, right? So you have 40 cards as opposed to 45. You got an extra MU, so it fills that toolbox concept that Shapers have. And then to top it all off, with cards like Diesel, it means, okay, not only you're in the faction that normally has the lowest deck size on top of the most burst draw as opposed to quality draw like with Mr. Lee or something like that. So it feels like Chaos Theory still fits really well in the Shaper faction as like a primary ID for Shaper. If I was going to, like, if I were to look at like the existing Shaper IDs that are in the game, I'd be more inclined to say maybe I'm stepping on toes here, crossing the line for some people, but I feel like if I could reverse it or change things up, Chaos Theory would have been the core set ID initially, and whatever Kate is doing would have probably just been smoke from the jump, where you get a discount that refreshes every turn, except it's specific to a certain mechanic, which is what Smoke does, which is a more fair card. Obviously, it doesn't mean it's a better card, but it's a more fair kind of card in that regard, I guess. So in general, I'm happy. I'm happy with that ID being in the game and being going to be basically take over instead of Cade as the primary ID. And as far as notoriety, I could not agree more with you guys. I think that in a meta where we don't have it, we don't know what the Jackson replacement is, or even if there's going to be a Jackson replacement, where we don't really have a lot of quality, R&D hits, and Mad Dash still exists, and Freedom Through Equality still exists. It's very like, guys, come on, like why?
Oh, you talking about indexing? You mean?
Yeah, like why? Sorry, index. Yeah, like why is indexing going to remain where we have people able to do silly stuff like indexing? You don't have Jackson. Well, Freedom Through Equality and Mad Dash. I scored this 2-pointer for 4 points. It's like that's disgusting. Like,
yeah. I mean, so we've saw before.
Oh, real quick. We actually do have one card that counters indexing, and that card is Mirage.
Oh, good call. Okay.
So remember that if you're getting indexed and you just put your Mirage on R&D. That's words from the wise. All right, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Tips.
But no, you're fine.
The one thing that I would have liked to see though is I don't really think Dinosaurus is necessary. I mean, we saw Reyna be uncrippled from her staple console. Chaos Theory. I've seen a lot of people play Chaos Theory, and they're not using Dinosaurus.
That's true.
So I don't think it. I mean, from thematically, you can have it, but like Chaos Theory, you see the new art. She's a little more grown up. Maybe she doesn't have the dinosaur anymore. So there is that. But I mean, if you want to keep it there because you want to pull Toolbox out, okay. But I don't think it needed to be coupled like that.
Sure. I think it's so iconic is the only reason.
Yeah.
It's just like Chaos Theory and her little dino is what Chaos Theory is. Like you almost can't have one without the other.
Yeah, but what are you gonna do now that you can't put Yogg on?
Yeah, you're just gonna cry. You're gonna be like, "What? I pay 5 credits to make my Gordian Blade 4 strength?
I don't know what to put on Dinosaurus."
Maybe you just put Baba Yaga on Dinosaurus and go nuts.
Before I get into my ones that I wish were still here, I missed one in Criminal. Hostage, I thought was a very interesting card. I love the way that you can pull the connections out, because that's where Criminal does. Criminal relies on that subtype sometimes, so to have a search just specifically for that was great. What is missing in Shaper? What am I going to shed a tear over? My most beloved card, from eons and eons, although it has been replaced for me recently because Find the Truth is now available in Atom at a huge discount. But Woman in a Red Dress, sad to see her go. Then we have Torch. You have your big kit ammo there. Surprised to see Lockpick. My boy Motivation. Again, that's just me personally. I don't think anyone else is motivating anything.
Motivation Oracle May. That was very cool in draft, by the way.
Yeah,
that was super strong.
Motivation Oracle May. That was my.
It's in my cube.
That was my play.
It's in your cube. I love that. I love that combo.
That's my play.
I love that in cube.
I know for a fact. There's not many people crying over False Echo leaving.
Hey, except me.
Yeah.
I'm the bad guy of Netrunner. I won nationals with 2 combo decks. Like no one's sympathetic with my opinions. Like I want to combo out. So no.
Yeah.
I like so. It's not real talk. I love combo decks in card games. I think they're super cool. I think it's awesome to be able to do some crazy combo and like totally roll your opponent in like one turn. I think it's sick, but it's not cool when it's like the best strategy.
Right.
So I kind of feel like I don't like it. Like I don't think combos. Like I don't think it's fun to be a combo player when combo is the best thing to do. Like I think that's boring because then the games aren't that interesting, right? But when combo's right in that tier 1.5, tier 2 sweet spot, it's so fun because you're like, it's like it's not like it's like a little bit like almost jank to be trying to pull something like that off, right? Like the Ayla deck at Nationals, like that's so janky. And I love that people are like, you won with that jank deck, and it's like, yeah, it was kind of janky. Like I like that, you know.
You know, that's why these guys are taking me back now. This is like a stroll down memory lane because like when I won my first store championship, it was with Oracle May Motivation, and then Matt just referenced it, Morningstar on Dino. That Big Breaker. If anybody remembers my my Big Breaker suite, that was my claim to fame. The other two cards that I just want to touch on again, one janky, one interesting cut is Deus Ex. Again, maybe a little too overpowered with the prevent any amount of net damage. It's just more of an interesting card to see go. As someone who played a lot of Jinteki and who had to burn constantly through the recursion of Deus Ex, and I've had some heated games, but I think that it was. I think it's going to be missed. And because it can break the APs. Now maybe that means we'll have some stuff strength greater than 10 now, an AP, but we'll see. It does. Deus Ex alone does make Jinteki weep. So
yeah, true that.
The janky one that I'm kind of sad to see go. I experimented and played with the hell out of this one casually was Paintbrush.
Sure, Paintbrush is super cool.
I think it would have. Yeah. I think it really would have been an interesting card in the core, just to show them that there is other things that you can have program wise that are not just breakers and viruses.
Yeah. Like there's like, you don't have the right breaker. You can have like a program that supports your breaker suite without literally being an icebreaker. Right. I think that's cool.
It's just so thematic inside Shaper, moving things, tinkering things. Love it. Yeah. Love it.
It's cool.
I tried to make it work a lot, but I mean,
surfer Paintbrush, man.
Yeah.
That's the life. Just painting pictures and going surfing.
Any other thoughts on there then, guys? Cards that got left out that I kind of just mentioned, or if you had your own along the way?
I think Shaper's actually one of the factions that got hit the least bad by rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because they had so many good cards at the start of this game.
Yeah, it seems like that Shaper kind of like. I think Creation and Control is where most of Shaper's power is, like Clone Ship SMC, like those two cards in particular. But, I think Shaper is doing fine. Mm-hmm. Although I am going to miss False Echo. I don't care what anyone says.
Stand the ground, man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hollis?
I mean, I agree with John. I think that a lot of like what Shaper has remaining in their toolkit is still very useful. Like I really feel like Maker's Eye will still be a card that we will likely see play. I think Indexing is a card that we'll likely see play. And then on top of that, like not just looking at the R&D related cards, the fact that they kept Diesel, they kept cards like Magnum Opus and Tinkering and Gordian Blade. Like those cards are very strong. I know we're not going to go into it very much or at all on today's episode, but of course we recently had what may be a restricted / ban list that basically got leaked for Netrunner. It's interesting to see some of the cards that remained are on that list. So it's it's almost like looking at it, FFG even kept cards behind, and assuming that list is accurate, they kept cards remaining in the core 2 set that you have to pick and choose between those cards that remain, which I think is also still a fair balance. It means like it makes like I guarantee you there's a couple cards here Like Magnum Opus, as an example, John mentioned this earlier. I looked at it initially and said, wait, that's staying compared to this other card? And then when I saw that league restricted or ban list, I was like, okay, you know what? I don't really have a leg to stand on, because if that restricted list is what it is actually legitimate, like Magnum Opus remaining doesn't even really bother me. There's so many other cards you can't play just to have it.
Yeah, I think Opus has kind of always had that dynamic to it in particular, where when you choose to be a Magnum Opus deck, it really shuts off your options too, inherently. Like just Magnum Opus alone. Because it's like you lose the ability to do so many other things because so much of your game plan is dedicated to clicking the Magnum Opus.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, yeah. Cool.
So there you have the Shaper. Let's just touch on the neutral set right quick. I'll break it up and then we can discuss. We're keeping Infiltration, Sure Gamble, Crypsis, and Armitage code busting. I mean, where would Netrunner be without Sure Gamble? No reason to move that card. Probably, is it still the best econ card in the game? Yeah, probably.
I think Sure Gamble's in the sweet spot where it's the core thing. You start making a deck, you put your gambles in. Like, I like that about it. But I also like that if your deck's weird enough, you don't play Sure Gamble.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're taking a walk on the wild side, you got some weird stuff going on in your deck, you might not play it. And I just think that like alone is cool enough to keep Sure Gamble, personally.
Access to Global Seg. Cut. Interesting.
Yeah. Forget this card. I forgot it even existed. I was like, oh, access. What's that do again? Like,
how do you get your link then, man?
You play a Dyson Memchip.
You rabbit hole it.
Rabbit hole Dyson Memchip. Also, Reyna is the only ID now that has a base link in the core set.
Ooh.
Used to be Kate. Yep. That's pretty interesting. So, like, clearly you can do in Reyna now. You probably are going to want Underworld Contact and Dyson Memchip, because you got to get those data suckers and stuff installed. So that's maybe an option. I don't know. But I kind of like that, you got the Memchip Underworld Contact combo in the core set. It's cool deck building. Also, I think Underworld Contact's, just sweet. In a link deck. Dude, rip Sunny if there's no Underworld Contact. You need it. You need it to play Sunny. So I think it's cool.
Oh, so you're okay with helping Sunny out, but Adam can't have E3.
It's not like that, man. It's a little bit like that. She is the world's best mom. Best mom.
Touche. So Dyson and Underworld kept. I do like. I do think Underworld was needed. I think it teaches in a core set about drip econ. Setting that up, but it's also very good in some competitive style decks. If you have Link and you can turn this stuff on, these things stack across the board. So really interesting include.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at this suite, this is almost like what it should have been out the way. They always said that the first, pack and a bit were kind of the core set extended anyway out. So you see a lot of those cards from the first cycle kept over and included.
Yeah, like you said, just that sort of extension of this is nice, right? Because it's almost like looking at this as a whole, that sort of core set plus attitude about the first two cycles really makes sense here. It's like we saw what worked, we saw what didn't work.
Yep.
We saw what people really loved and really latched onto, and we saw what people really revolted against. And this kind of it's hard to be mad about this core set. When you look at the whole runner side, it's hard to be upset. Really, you maybe have a personal affinity for a thing here or there, but it makes sense as a whole thing. Mm-hmm. I think. Agreed. Looking at it and the history of the game.
Agreed. Hollis, you got anything else about the neutrals there?
I think I don't want to. I always feel like I'm gonna make a statement that is clearly wrong, but I kind of want to be right just because of ego. No, but the card I think about is a little bit more now. I think is Armitage code busting, and the reason why I'm happy that remains is twofold. One, obviously, like in a core set, you want to make sure you have a neutral card that's an economic card that players can choose from, that kind of rounds everything out. But number two, I feel like with the rotation, some people are losing parts of their economic engine. And I don't think, similarly to other cards I talked about, I don't think Armitage is a card that will get slotted in the competitive meta because there's still enough options to where they don't need it. But it's possible that you might see someone playing a deck archetype where maybe the restricted or ban list puts a large hindrance on available economic cards they can choose from. And as a result, when that starts happening, a card like Armitage code busting looks a lot more attractive. We know Shaper gets, based on that list, will have Magnum Opus as a restricted card, if that's accurate. So you're like, okay, well, so Magnum Opus is restricted, and the core ID is Chaos 3. So Chaos 3 out of the box can go Magnum Opus 3 Breakers. Mm-hmm. Like no additional like assembly required. I don't even need the console unless I really, really want it because I have all the EMU that I need to have Opus. But do you run Opus as Chaos 3? Maybe, maybe not. So do you? I mean, does your existing economy support it? If you're Chaos 3, you don't have the link, so you can't do the Underworld Contacts plan. But you can do something like the data folding plan. So it's like, do you go drip economy? Or are you going to need the cards like Armitage to round out the economy engine you're going to have? And obviously it's not super efficient, but it's still better than clicking for one. Yeah, so I don't know.
Shout outs to Apocalypse, one of the best decks to have Armitage code busting in. Is an Apocalypse deck.
Yeah, there you go.
Temporary econ.
Yeah. So I do like it. I like Armitage, still persisting as a core 2.0, neutral card that's there. I think it's fine. Crypsis also will probably never see play ever again, but I'm happy it's there. It's basically, I just feel like those two cards in particular, they fill that slot that we kind of just need to exist. I would rather them exist as a blanket in case things go bad or runners need a way to provide an answer to something. I don't know.
Obviously, there's some cards that are not here for a reason. Blackmail being the top one.
I can't defend that one.
No, it got a little out of control when Val was created. The other one that's an interesting omission, I think, is Plascrete. Do you guys think it served its time? It's time to move it on. We don't really have that neutral damage mitigation now sitting in a core set. I mean, as we get to it, you'll see like Scorch was removed, but there's still other damage ones that that you can really take some heat from. But
I think Plascrete to me symbolizes a kind of card I just don't want to exist in Netrunner. I want meat damage to be interactive and fun enough that I don't have to put Plascrete in particular in my deck, I guess is sort of my perspective. I feel the same way about Film Critic. That's another sort of anti-something else card that you could play in your deck. I think the game, just on a personal level, I'm very happy to see Plascrete go, and I'll be really happy to see Film Critic go, and I'll be really happy to see Aaron go, and a lot of these cards, because just on a personal level, I think it's cool that, let's say, I'm more of a casual player, and I sit down and I have, Mopus Kit or whatever. I don't have to have Plascrete in my deck to beat your Wayland deck. I'm still competitive with you, even if I don't have my hate card. So that's how I kind of feel about Plascrete, is I don't like it. When you play it, it's almost because it's necessary. It's because 24/7 boom sinks in the meta, so I have to play Plascrete in my deck, or I have to put Aaron in my deck, or I have to put Film Critic in my deck because Scorpios is popular. So whatever the case may be, I don't love that aspect of it. I think it's cool when it's stuff like Crash Space, so that helps you, that aids in your ability to fight something, but doesn't just counter it like Plascrete does. which is kind of how I always felt about it. Is like, it's like, you know, again, it's like I'd feel bad when I was playing like a mid-seasons deck, and a new player sits down, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is gonna be a learning experience, you know, like right out the gate. Like I kind of prefer the game to be a little more baseline than needing a card like Plascrete.
And then I will lead some kind of campaign against these choices here, but again, Adam sees some hate, losing public sympathy.
Yeah,
come on.
I love public sympathy. Come on.
Yeah. Geez, like, why are you gonna kick the guy when he's down? You just lost one of his good, you know, best tools. Now you're pulling off neutral hand size increased. You're really forcing Adam to go in a different direction. Everyone's going to be brain caging it. All four of us. That being said, too, is I'm really surprised they didn't put in City Hall, New Angeles, just because they pulled out Decoy. At least give some avoid tag stuff. And introduce that mechanic into the core set. The other two ones that I had mentioned before, one of them is the John Masanori in the click compression with Criminal. He'd kind of seen his day. He's kind of like past his prime. John, the Criminals have moved on. He's been found out to be aiding and abetting, and he's just not around as much. And not that it gets used that much anymore, but Lucky Find was an interesting one, and I think that would have been interesting to include in a core just to get people used to the fact of doubles. And I think,
which are a core mechanic, which we would imagine are going to stick around for a long time.
Yeah,
I would expect.
And I think that's maybe why Hostage got kind of cut, because it was a double. Any thoughts on ones that you guys feel that you know, maybe, you know, shoulda, woulda, coulda?
You know, I think that basically covers it as far as the neutrals, stuff that I'm kind of curious to hear what the reasoning was on them.
Yeah.
I will say, though, John Masanori, in his flavor text, what are the babes? He says, I've been logging in with babes all day. Don't worry, the connections are clean. I guarantee it. Is that like, is he trying to say it's like drugs or something? Like, what is he trying to say there? Because yeah, I don't know. What's John Masanori talking about? Should I take him at his word? We'll never know. He's gone.
Some kind of you know, futuristic STD, I guess.
Yeah, he's speaking in tongues. I don't know what he's trying to say. I'm not picking up what he's putting down. That's for sure.
Nobody gave you he gave you a card afterwards.
That's true. That was nice.
Cyber love, man. He's a cyber love Casanova. Cyber Casanova. That's his job. That should be his like title, like the his subtype. How like Reyna's like cyborg. John Masanori is like, it's like Connection Casanova. That's what it should
Casanova.
be. Connection Casanova. You're like, what? That's crazy.
Hollis, did you want to get into talking about the two cards that you messaged me offline and said that you'd like to speak to? You want to talk about Raymond Flint and your Starlight Crusade funding?
I would never. Hold on. That wasn't me. Hold on. Pause. Hold on. I would never do that. I would never tell you that I like any of those cards. That's the first thing. I would never do that. Man, I can't even remember what Starlight Crusade funding does. 1 sec. I found it.
You lose a click. When your turn begins, ignore any additional cost on each double.
Okay, like, well, so correct me if I'm wrong. Like, adjusted chronotype remained.
Power Nap would sit into these double decks.
But it wouldn't even matter. Like,
there was Starlight Max, right? That was like a thing. That was like a joke, janky deck where you play all the doubles in Power Nap, and then like Max mills them all, and then you like Power Nap, Power Nap, Power Nap, and then you like levy, and you make like $1 zillion. I don't know. Maybe I just made all that up, but that sounds like something that someone would have made.
Should have been, man.
No. So I like crusade funding. I don't know. It's basically like it to me. It's part of a deck that wants to utilize some sort of like unique, like some sort of awesome combo, I guess. And yeah, not a fan. When I look at Raymond,
I had high hopes for Raymond before. I really did. When he came on the scene, it was a interesting way to get an access. And then from that perspective, bad publicity as the mechanic kind of fizzled. So there wasn't anything to support him, but it was one of the first cards to give a very unique way to access a card from HQ. Loved it when it first came out, but didn't go anywhere.
I feel like Raymond Flynn is interesting to me primarily because number one, it costs 2, which is already hefty, right, for a resource that doesn't actively necessarily win you the game, but like it also is unique because it's a connection. And like I guess the question I ask myself when I look at a card like Raymond Flint, like if this card was 0, does it make it OP? I don't think so. Like if this card was like pay 0, it is a unique card, so only one of it can be in play at a time, and it says whenever the corp takes at least 1 bad publicity, access 1 card. So it's like, all right, I'm playing Anarch and I have itinerant protesters or any number of cards. No, what's the card? Investigative journalism is like my whole turn. Investigative journalism and I access 1 card. You take a bad pub, access 1 card. All right, I guess I accessed a single card. Good job, me. 4 clicks to look at 1 card. Good job. Like it just doesn't seem like this card is good enough to justify even at 0. That's why the design of this card is really interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, and unless you just start like hacking agendas away with frame job, right?
Yeah, or something. I don't know. Like
I'm going to give up my points for the possibility to get a point.
Like if I would instead prefer if this card did something like trash it, access 1 card from the corpse hand, or access 1 card from HQ equal to the number of bad publicity the corporation has. Like, at least then you're like, if I have this bad publicity plan, at some point, like the concept of HQI, or the concept of gang sign, I can hit your whole hand right now.
Yeah.
Because my entire deck strategy is about making sure that's what I do. Like,
this was,
and
probably,
that's a lot of pieces to do it. Like,
this is probably early gang sign like design space here, but
yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, bad publicity to the mechanic did not go anywhere.
Probably because it's really stern. Like it's an incredibly powerful mechanic.
Yeah,
a free credit every run, especially when you in a game where like you have effectively like paid ability windows where that credit can be spent. That's powerful. So it's kind of a good thing it's not running rampant everywhere. Mm-hmm. The best thing about it is that it gave us the name for this YouTube channel. So props to FFG and Bad Publicity for letting us steal that. Thanks.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, hey, quick shout out to Travis Fights Dragons. If you guys don't know, Travis Fights Dragons is actually he's a Netrunner player, but he's also an L5R player. He is the guy. He is the reason the tabletop simulator L5R dashboard or I guess setup exists.
Whoa.
Oh,
so shout out to him.
cool.
Yeah.
Love it when people are putting in work like that, you know.
I played quite a bit on that mod, so pretty cool.
Pretty cool stuff.
So that's basically almost everything that we can say about runners, right?
Right. Yeah, that's it. That's the whole shebang.
I believe that I have a third.
We have a third one.
Haas Byroid Metal ID. And in honor of John's second show, why don't you do the random honors?
Cool. So let me see who's been in chat, and I'll put it on a random number generator. How's that? And then we'll pick who gets it.
Yep.
Yep. All right, cool. So looks like it'll be.
This is if it was a drum here, this is what I would be making the appropriate sound.
Yeah. Jonathan Yao.
Jonathan
got it. Jonathan got it.
I don't know this person.
Jonathan actually does Arkham.
Oh.
As well as a whole bunch of other games.
Yeah. Hey,
Cool.
well, he pulled the random.
He does everything.
Pulled the random
I did
number.
it random.
Hype. Yes. Hype.
John will get you a silverback gorilla here. We'll get that out to you, man. Perfect. I don't know what else to say, guys. Hollis, you got any real talk or anything to hit us up there? Do you want to make predictions? Do you want to make predictions if that leaked list is true or false?
You know what?
I mean, we're not going to talk. We're not going to get into talking about the details about it here.
I'll say this.
Just off the cuff. What do you think? Is it real? Is it false?
All right. Okay. So my real talk is going to actually discuss the leaked restricted / ban list. So this number one. This is how I feel about it. Okay. So number one, let's assume I will say this. I trust Spoilerkin because in the past. When there has been Netrunner leaks, I think it actually came from Spoilerkin. He's been pretty on point in the past. So I'm inclined to think that this spoiled list is legitimate and accurate. It's not just a guess. But I will say that some of the choices on the cards that are on the restricted / ban list are a bit suspect. I think primarily because they're very new. Some of them, like I think 2 of the runner cards especially, are in Crimson Dust. They're in the last pack of this cycle. So it's like, wow, that's a really like very quick adjustment. But beyond that, by the way, those of you that haven't seen the list, it's on Netrunner Dorks. I'm not going to link it, obviously, because I can't really, but it's on Netrunner Dorks. You can find that, someone's linked an image of the spoilers, so you can see what is probably or likely what I think is going to be on the restricted / ban list. It could all turn out to be false, but this will give you an idea maybe of where the game is going. If the list is accurate, I'll say this: if the list is accurate, this makes me really happy in regards to how I feel about FFG. Let me explain. I feel like for the longest time, things like the Most Wanted list existed because there was this sort of pride behind the development of their game that they had, where they didn't want to say, this card is banned, this card is restricted, this card is going to be modified or have an errata. Because they wanted to kind of let the issues, according to them, they wanted the issues in the game to sort of be worked out organically by the players and see if the existing card pool will allow them to adjust decks to answer certain issues. What we discovered as the game went on and as this was the stance FFG had taken is that is not necessarily the best practice. Not only that, but while players can do this, that process until you get there, or even when they're trying to get there and it's not helpful, it results in a very large amount of negative play experiences, which is overall bad for the game. For those of you that have stuck with the game this far, you are probably under the acceptance that a lot of players have left because of the existing state of the game, because it felt like there were a lot of negative play experience decks and cards that existed that people did not feel comfortable with playing. That's a negative thing. If the list is inaccurate, then I guess you go about doing what you're doing already, right? Making guesses about what's going to be played at Worlds, things like that. I have a different small pet peeve as a content creator, which I know is like not the majority, but I'm still going to give my 2 cents anyway. I love spoilers. But what I love more than spoilers sometimes as a content creator is being able to have the information about something come out and then being able to like get the designers of the game in and say, hey guys, I really love or am interested in this change you've implemented. I would love to pick your brain about why you made this change or the thought process behind it. Now, while we as content creators can discuss the changes in any episode we choose, the problem is that now that this has been spoiled, FFG is still under whatever existing gag order they have to discuss the change, whether or not it's legitimate. So that means that even if we wanted to discuss it, yeah, we're going to give our opinions, but we have no opportunity now until it's official to be able to talk to Michael Boggs, Andrew Navarro, Damon Stone, Lucas, anybody that's at FFG. We can't even discuss this with them in any great detail about why changes are made, what were their thought process, like the testing aspect of this and how those things came to be, because it's been spoiled. And FFG is not going to talk about content that isn't official. So while it's very cool to have these spoilers, our hands are kind of tied, where we love to discuss this stuff, but it's a very cool thing to be able to have Damon and be able to have Boggs available and to make time available to talk to us about the stuff. But with it not being official, we can't even loop them in to bring that kind of that cool content to you guys yet. So unfortunately, this is sort of it's a good and a bad. It's a love-hate kind of scenario here as content creators. But if you're not excited about it, if this is legit, if you are not excited about it yet, if you're not excited about Core 2 and rotation, this is the additional cherry on top, my family, my Netrunner fam, to make you excited. If rotation didn't do it, if Core 2 didn't do it, a banned and restricted list should absolutely be the thing that does it to make you hype about all the changes, guys. At this point, I don't know what else FFG can do other than make rotation faster. And I can't even talk about that now, because now I know they're going to have an active ban list if that list is accurate. So I don't even care. The rotation can be slower if they're just going to ban the cards that are ruining the game anyway. So yeah, that's it. That's my rant. I'm excited. Whew. Sorry, guys. I apologize. I was really long-winded. Okay. I needed a nap. Okay.
John, you got any thoughts on that stuff, man?
Not a lot. I hope it's real. I think I grew up with banned and restricted lists in card games. I think they're elegant and effective. I think they're not very confusing. I think they also very swiftly address problems. Someone was saying that they felt like I read a comment, they felt like someone felt like the MWL was good, like it actually did what it was supposed to do. I pretty strongly disagree with that. I continued to abuse Faust and win tournaments regularly after it went on the MWL3.
Yep.
That was not enough to prevent me from winning with Faust. And if you put it on the MWL5, I promise you I could make a Shaper deck that plays Faust that would be very strong. You could put on the MWL10, I could probably still do it. I'm not even kidding. Faust is insane. That card is insane. So it's literally you install Faust and it's oh, I just gained 60 credits. That was sick. Now it doesn't cost money to break ice. It's there's some of these cards like that and Friends in High Places. Some of these cards where it's they are really that good. The hype isn't fake.
Yeah.
So, in that sense, I don't think the MWL ever really addressed these problems. I think if you put Temujin at tier 3, I think you'd play 3 in Criminal. It's my honest opinion. So, there's always that kind of thing. As with regard to some of the weird things on the list, I think a lot of people were pointing out Mopus and Aesop and stuff. I think maybe that makes sense if you actually tested it. I don't know what the format is, right? We don't know, as a collective, what's the best deck after this and Core 2? And do you guys know what the best deck is? Tell me, because I'm playing in Worlds, So it's maybe people clearly put in some thought into it if it's real, and I'm curious to see how it shakes out.
It's probably got 3 Apocalypse in it, though.
It's got at least 1 if I'm playing.
Damn, son.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm really excited. Just on a total tangent, just to add on to this, I'm so excited for Worlds. I have been I've read through every card 3 times. I have a notepad where I've come up with all these different ideas. I have a document where I'm tracking all this information about what I could possibly play, and this just throws a wrench into it. I'm super all in serious for Worlds. All the San Francisco guys have a testing house. We're spending a week in Minnesota before Worlds, just grinding tons of games in Netrunner in a giant house with 7 bedrooms. So it's gonna be sick. I'm so pumped. I'm unimaginably excited for Worlds.
Awesome.
my experience last year at Worlds, having never been to a major card game tournament that wasn't Magic the Gathering, was one of the most positive experiences in my life as a gamer. So I'm just happy to feel that again. Like I'm excited that could happen again, basically.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Nice. Bring home the trophy for BP.
No problem.
Get them subs.
Hey. He's gonna do it for San Fran though. He's gonna do it for the Bay.
Yeah.
The Bay. Or you're in Berkeley. You're in Berkeley.
Yeah, I live in Oakland, right next to it. But yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. It's pretty funny. There's like very regional things. It's like when it's Store Champ season, East Bay is testing together. Like we're talking about stuff together. We're not talking to the San Francisco people. Like the East Bay of San Francisco becomes a collective. And then San Francisco, like they kind of become like a collective, and there's things. And then we get out to regional season, and it's like, okay, we got to win regionals because like NorCal's coming, Seattle's coming. We can't let them take our regionals, right? So I like how like you kind of extrapolate out the different sorts of loyalty to the game. I think it's cool. I love Worlds too because there's like the UK, the East Coast, Atlanta. Like there's all these like regions, and like people love to work together, and like people always just produce unique things. Like no one has the same opinion, you know. And I just love that about the game, like at that really high level.
Yeah, I played my travel card already and went to Gen Con. Unfortunately,
it's a good travel card.
But that's the thing that I'm going to miss the most is beers with the UK boys.
They can drink.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting experience down in there.
Yeah. Someone asked real quick what my card would be for Worlds if I won.
That's what I was going to get to, yeah.
Okay. I've thought about this a lot, which is like maybe not a good sign. It shows that I'm probably more arrogant than I ought to be to actually have thought about this. But my card would be something like a resource that was called the Rude Crew, which is what we call the San Francisco team. Because I very strongly believe that no individual is the sole like reason why their success occurs. Like my success in Netrunner has just as much to do with the people who work with me on testing and practicing all that stuff that it does with me. But I would do like a team card where like you install it and then it's like a resource rabbit hole that like gets more of them out of your deck because it's like a whole crew. I don't know what else it would do.
Oh, does it replace Replicator?
Maybe it's like a Replicator thing, but like I just like the idea of like a card that is like, you know, it like tutor. I like the cards that tutor more of themselves, and like I think it represents like that we're all like a crew in San Francisco. We're very loyal to each other and stuff. So
you know what you have to do too if you win, push for putting a subtype on that card that then never is used or reflected again.
Like resource crew.
Yeah, it's like a crew resource. And people are like, "Oh man, this new subtype, waiting for it."
You're gonna get them. No, but the honest to God truth is, if Brian or Wes or Noah McKee or any of the people that, you know, I'm in close connection with, or any of the people that we're going to be working with, shout out to like Gustavo Garcia who's in chat. He's going to be working with us for Worlds, and Poto Boys and Ran from LA. We have a few people that we bring in. Like we brought in some outside, not SF people last year. We're doing the same thing this year. And if anybody on my team wins, it's like I won. So I don't care at that point, you know.
Well, you guys had a good run last year, up in the top tables.
Yeah, I think we had 4 in the top 16 out of 9 people in the house, and then we had 7 in the top 32 of the 9.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, it just goes to show you, if you eat your Wheaties every morning and play a shitload of Netrunner, you too can do well at Worlds.
Wheaties, send us money. All right. Thank you very much.
10 tips to get top 8 at Worlds.
Yeah. be on the box soon enough, John.
God.
Thank you guys very much. We're going to flip this over to the corporation side, I believe next Wednesday night. same time, same channel. Thank you very much again to our newest sponsors of the show there. Really appreciate you guys clicking down there. If you guys haven't seen it, we've got picked to add YouTube sponsorship to our channel, so it's a way that you can show your support like Chris and Joshua have done tonight. I believe now we have to do a little bit of work on our side because we had to hit 2 sponsors, and now we unlock custom emoticons or whatever they're called. So I don't know how to go about that yet, but I'm sure we'll get Hollis on it right away, and you guys will have all of the what's all that weird little emoticons, memes, and things that Hollis spams the internet with. Hollis, you think there should be one about 5 bears?
Oh god, there should be one about 5 bears. There needs to be one about Lycan.
Yeah,
there needs to be a Lycan one because it's one of the worst designed Netrunner cards, like in my top 5, hands down.
I don't know. 5 bears is our inside joke, but whatever. Is that what it was? Was it 5?
It was 8. It's 8 bears. It's a Magic the Gathering.
Oh shit! 8 bears.
8. Yeah.
8 fucking bears.
Wait a minute, we have another spot. We have another one.
Oh my god.
I'm losing it. We have another sponsor. Shout out to Gustavo Garcia, who's actually been very active in the chat throughout the past, throughout the past 2 hours. He's been talking with us, going back and forth, discussing things. Thank you so much, Gustavo. Thank you so much, Gustavo, Josh, Maui, Chris. You guys are really
incredible.
Nice. Thank you for stepping.
Let me dig into my bag of tricks, guys. You guys were the first 3. Gustavo, send an email to badpublicitybroadcast@gmail.com. I will see what I have to send you guys as thank yous for being the first ones there. I'm probably gonna blow our whole prize budget for the rest of the season, but oh well, don't matter. Thank you guys, and we will catch you all later. Hollis, you gonna dance us out?
I'm in. Let's go.
Thanks very much, guys.
Hey.
Catch you later. On behalf of Hollis, John, myself, Jameson, keep running.